Yeah, I'm gonna do the same.
I think both of us are hydrating ourselves before this live kickoff. But welcome everybody to our very special Zoom call today. Actually, from it's this is something that I've been looking forward to putting on for a number of you guys for quite some time now because JD is someone's community that I really benefited from. You know, when I first started out, all 4 years ago now as well. Freaking out, it's been 4 years. That's crazy.
Okay.
But thank you so much, JD, for joining us and blessing us with your presence. Jabran and JD finally meet live on YouTube. Awesome. So I'd like to just kick this off, JD. First of all, if for those of you that don't know who JD is, I don't know, probably you've been living under a rock, but there's a few new people within our community as well that I've never really come across high ticket sales as well, and it will be good for everyone to know, a bit about you, your story, etc. So I'll hand over the floor to you, and then we'll just roll with it from there.
Cool. Yeah, I'm from a small place on the east coast of Canada. Everybody who thinks Toronto or Montreal is the east coast, there's actually more over there. I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada. And as far as my journey into remote sales, probably it resonates with a lot of people that I left my corporate job. I had a really good corporate job. To most people's standards, it was kind of climbing the ladder. I did really well, but I wasn't happy. And so I went down that rabbit hole, those magic words that everybody searches sometime in their life, which is make money online. I like the idea of it. I started watching more TV shows on traveling and nomadic lifestyle. And I started going through the list, and anybody who knows me will laugh and say, like, I have no tech ability. I am the least when it comes to digital nomad. I'm 100% nomad and 0% digital. And so a lot of the things that I was going through, whether it was drop shipping, affiliate marketing, a lot of them involve like a really kind of high tech or big investment. And I actually stumbled upon this industry in kind of an interesting way, in that I was having a call to discuss e-commerce business. And again, it didn't seem like it fit my personality and what I was looking for. But after the call, I was like, wait a second, who did I just have a call with? That wasn't the business owner. I'm like, that's interesting, because I feel like I could have that conversation. I didn't think there'd be a lot of tech. And so I just started getting curious around, like, who did I just speak to and what is that? And so I found it kind of accidentally. And
What year was that in?
oh, that was about 8 years ago now. Yeah, eight or
2016.
yeah, 8 or 9. Yeah. And so, I kind of looked around a little bit more, kept coming back to it, kept uncovering. There wasn't any Facebook groups or even really a lot of training back then. It wasn't like the community that we have now.
Mm.
A lot of it was more the coaching side, more the agency side. And so I just started kind of going down the rabbit hole of, like, what is this? And I started traveling at that point, and I ended up finding a few things and just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. And over the first 4 months, I think I made something like $3,200 total. And at the time, there was maybe a couple of people training on it, and it was like always came back to the same things. It's your skill, or you're not working hard enough. And I was in Korea at the time, working like 12-hour back shift to keep up with the US hours. I was working my ass off, and I felt like I was having good conversations. I ran the numbers, and I realized for me to make any money on this, I'd have to close around 200%. And so anybody that knows closing percentage knows it's very tough to get two deals out of one call. It's tough to get one deal out of one call, but two deals out of one call. And I thought, well, even if keep improving my skills, I'm not getting enough at bats. I'm not in a position. I'm not talking to enough people who could be potential buyers. Even if I maxed out my skill and closed everybody I talked to, it's still nowhere near my earning potential. And so
Mm.
that's when I started my own kind of development of strategies and implementing different things and kind of going off the beaten path. For anybody that knows me now, knows that my approach is quite different to what the standard is. That's because I face some of the struggles that I think are pretty common in this space and have become more common since I started. But that's kind of how I got my start in remote sales. It's been 8 to 9 wonderful years, and about 3.5, 4 years ago, I started the community. I ran
My
what I
God, so
thought.
I was like one of the new ones then,
You
like
were one of the
right at the
first,
beginning.
man. Yeah, you were one of the early beginnings, and I ran what I thought would be kind of a small case study every once in a while. At the time, I was doing recruiting, and I opened it up to 5 people, and 55 people signed up, and that was the birth of UCM, and we haven't looked back since.
That's crazy. That's oh my God. There's so many questions, and I bet there's lots of questions on YouTube as well. But you mentioned struggles. And like you said that a lot of people face them now as well. Give us an insight into like what were the struggles that you saw?
Yeah, so for me, it was one, just an endless amount of applications, and the application process kept getting longer and longer, and I was jumping through more hoops. And it's one thing, like, I know that not everybody's going to want to work with me, but I wasn't even hearing responses. I wasn't even hearing a no. And so I didn't know if they got my application, if they
Mm.
reviewed it. I didn't get any feedback. And so I felt like it was this transactional process where I'm not moving forward. So that was one, is just the ability to find great jobs and to even know what a great job was. I didn't have the insights. And so the way the marketing was at that point, it was basically like, come into remote sales, make 10K, easy money. And so I came in thinking, yeah, of course, I'll make easy money. And then I kept getting these jobs, and I was averaging like $1,100 a month. And so that was after about 4 months, I realized that there's more to it. And in a lot of cases, like the traditional job market, I apply for a job, I kind of know what I'm getting paid. Like a lot of on Indeed, you see the earnings, like my corporate jobs. I kind of knew the salary, I knew what to expect. And on the other side, it was pretty much that, right? You might get a bad manager or something here and there, but for the most part, on the outside and on the inside, look the same. And in this space, I realized that the outside and the inside look totally different. And so the biggest struggle that I had, I didn't know it at the time, but the biggest struggle looking back was being able to, one, put myself in front of highly successful business owners, and two, being able to vet an offer and making sure that it could facilitate my performance. And I thought it was just you go in and you sell and all companies are created equal. And I found out the harsh reality that that's not the case. And so I think those are the struggles that I see a lot of people face with today is, one, how do we even get in front? How do we know what a good opportunity looks like? How do we find a good opportunity? How do we land a good opportunity? And then how do we vet to make sure the grass is actually greener? And that was my process back then.
Mm. And as a newbie looking at this right now, because those are very valid points, and oh my God, if you guys are watching this training, you probably are experiencing this right now yourself. So someone new starting out right now, what would be your step by step or checklist or kind of thing that would maybe tell your younger self, okay, this is what you do right now, and like the checklist that you have, like what would be the piece of advice that you'd give?
Right. I think it starts with desired outcome. It starts in the planning phase, but I think one of the things that, again, it's foundational, that if the foundation is rocky, everything built on the foundation is likely to crumble. And I think one of the biggest problems that I see is a lot of people think that the solution to their problem is a job. And I think that's a big issue because you're able to land a job, but this is a performance-based industry, and a lot of people don't come from a performance-based industry. So, they take a job and their hourly wage and they work, and that's it. And here, there's so many other factors. And so I think it's about zooming out and saying, what is the real solution, or what is the real problem here? It's not that you're employed or not. Typically it's around the earnings. And so when I shifted my focus from, instead of landing a job and accepting that offer, but positioning myself in that the true problem here is earnings. And so it allowed me to zoom out and realize that the job is a milestone on the path to earnings, but the earnings is what's really going to solve that core problem. My ability to live and pay my bills and travel and do all of these things, none of those are solved by the job itself. And the example I always use for students is, I can give you a job right now. Go make me $1 million and I'll give you 6 figures. That's a 6-figure job. But then you ask the question of like, well, how do I do that? I don't know. Go figure it out. Right. And that's an extreme version, but the jobs that I was working weren't much further off from that. It was basically like, here's a script, go figure it out. I asked for advice and they'd be like, just sell more. I'm like, oh, great. I never thought about that. Right. And like, I wasn't getting support. I wasn't getting lead flow. I wasn't getting the quality of leads. The people I was talking to weren't in that buying wheelhouse. They weren't interested or they weren't capable of buying. And so again, when I ran the numbers and realized I'd have to close 2 deals for every one call, there's something deeper there. And so I think first is, again, just like we walk through prospects, is if you don't know the desired outcome, if you don't know the destination, all the directions look valuable, right? And a lot of this insecurity that comes from being unemployed, right? And so we scramble and we get desperate and we just want, that's going to solve any problems. But what I've realized is taking the wrong, that's almost like being lonely and saying, all I need is a partner, right? All I need is a spouse. Well, you know that if you just pick anybody, that's going to be a real challenge down the road. You're just creating more problems. And the relationship between a business and salesperson is a partnership. It is an alliance. And when you choose the wrong partner, when you choose the wrong relationships, the quality of your life suffers. And so that would be my first, is understanding what you need to be able to move yourself forward. And it's more than just a job title or a role.
It's such a a great point that you've made as well, and I always say this to people as well, because so many people are in my inbox, and so many people are attracted. And the crazy thing is, like, someone like me and you, we could probably easily guarantee, as they say, and have those slogans on, like, guaranteed placement. Like, we can easily, and I can right now, I can place more than 20 people on multiple offers literally by tomorrow. I've got business owners in my inbox right now, but I'm thinking to myself, that's not the solution. It literally, like, you think it's the solution, but then wherever you go, there you are. Like, and your skill set's going to show up. It's not the job, and it's exactly. And well, I'm glad we're on the on the same page there as well, because so many people just think, oh, I land a job and I'm gonna make it. And it couldn't be so far away from the truth. So when you say understanding where you are, how would someone understand, like, where they are? Because some people will be like, well, I haven't had the job yet, so how would I know, like, where I am? Or and how would you say?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is, in remote sales, this has been sold as this like weird bubble that doesn't exist anywhere else and the rules don't apply. And I hear people talking about real life and remote sales. It's the same thing, right? And so what I looked at and what really helped me kind of make the transition is, this is the economy. I'm entering into the economy, and the economy principles, they make as much sense here as anywhere else. Right? The rules of economy apply here just like they apply everywhere else. And so the economy is kind of a fancy word for exchange, right? In that there's consumers and there's service providers. And so it's an allocation and an exchange of resources. And that's when I started looking at, because it's very easy early on to look at all the things you don't have. I don't have US hours. I can only work part-time. I don't have experience. I don't have past performance. And we make this long list of what we don't have. And the thing that I realized early on is the economy doesn't give a shit what you don't have. And the example I always use, it's another extreme one, but that breaks the logic of people, is imagine you walk into my bakery. And as soon as you walk in the door, I say, oh, Jabran, we don't sell steaks here. And we don't sell bicycles. And we don't sell skateboards. You'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, we don't go into a store and look for all the things that they don't have. That's not how the economy works, right? And so for me, when you're starting, it's not about exactly what someone's going to value or exactly what's going to make them say yes. It's about doing an inventory about what you have that's leverageable. right? So I can communicate. That is a leverageable skill. I may not be the most talented, but again, that's something I don't have, but I can communicate. I have eye integrity. I have time. I have some time to dedicate to a business, whether that's 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours. I have that time. I'm reliable. I have characteristics. I have a mindset. I have all of these things. I'm doing a big inventory of all the things that could potentially be leverageable that I can bring into the economy. And what I've realized is when you have time, because again, we tend to project the value in the marketplace, but that's not, again, how the economy works. It's not what you perceive the value is, it's what the other side. And so what I've noticed with a lot of people that have a lot of time, they don't value it. But when you talk to business owners, what's the thing that they say most? I wish I had more time. So again, just a basic rule of economy is I'm leveraging my time, which is a scarce resource for the business owner and what they value, in exchange for the setup of their business, of their leads, of their fulfillment, of their product. That's an exchange. And so really starting about what is it, kind of the basic questions of economy is, what do I want? What do I have to offer? Who has what I want? And what do they want? That's the exchange. The problem being is a lot of people come into this industry as a consumer mindset, and a consumer always pays. And you've heard this, and I've heard it. Someone will come in, and what's the first complaint? Everybody's trying to sell me, right? That's the first thing. It's like, oh, everybody's trying to scam me and sell me and blah, blah, blah. Instead of blaming the economy, let's look at why you are being confused as a consumer. Because what I see is people coming in, I want a job. I want to make 10K. I want. The only people who are allowed to come into an industry and start demanding is a prospect. A prospect can get on a call and say, I want this and I want more leads and I want to lose 10 pounds. And we're like, great, this is awesome, right? Because we know that those things come at a cost. So if you come into this industry with a consumer mindset of I want, of course, service providers are going to target you because you look like a prospect. Now, if you're able to switch that up and look at and say, how can I get other people what they want and I'll get what I want in return? You're now moving on the other side of the economy, which is service providers. And that's where the value is exchanged. That's where the money is made, right? So you have to ask yourself, am I being a consumer or am I being a service provider? One gets paid, one pays out. And it's that simple.
It's crazy. I'm going to push you. So what sort of service can some of these reps be providing?
Yeah, I think personally, it's about understanding where the exchanges are happening and what value can be provided. So I think we have to understand, again, it's not giving away your selfish desires. We all want to make money. We all want certain things, right? But it's about evolving and moving down the list, which is who has what I want, right? And how can I get involved in that exchange? So looking at the business owner, I have yet to meet a business owner that doesn't want to increase revenue. Right? So now I'm thinking, how can I help them increase revenue? I've yet to see a business owner that doesn't want more of their time back. How can I be more impactful in their time? I haven't met a business owner that wants more headaches. So how can I, now I'm starting to group those, how can I increase revenue, save time, save headaches? All of a sudden now I can start package up that, hey, I know you have an abundance of leads. Again, looking at what the market has, this business owner has leads. They have a product. They have all of these things set up. I can take this, which is a lead, which has no value, and I can turn it into something valuable, which is fulfillment. I can turn it into a purchase. I can turn it into a future success story, right? And all of a sudden that transition becomes valuable. On the other side, right, following the paper trail, there's a prospect with a problem. And they have money, which is their exchange. They have a problem, right? They want that problem removed and they have money to exchange, right? If I can facilitate that decision and connect them to a solution, all of a sudden now I've gotten two people what they want. The business owner wants a success story and so they have to get someone to purchase. The prospect wants a solution to their problem. Now all of a sudden I don't have to worry about what I want because I've connected the dots, the value dots. I get what I want automatically. So it's just about being able to zoom out and instead if your vision is only big enough to house you, you're not going to be impactful. So if it's, I want 10K, no one really cares, right? You become a consumer. But if it's, I want to produce 100K in revenue, I automatically get 10K. Automatically. I don't have to even think about it. I don't have to ask. If I up my perceived value, if I get involved in the exchange, I get what I want from getting what other people want.
It's like saying, and that's so it's so good because now you're talking the business owner's language. I want to generate multiple six figures a month
Right.
for the businesses that I want to work with. I want to bring in multiple six figures in revenue for the businesses that I want to work with. Right. In turn, you'll make at least 20 grand a month,
right.
10-20 grand a month.
Right.
And that's such a good point. It's such a good point because everyone is concerned about what's in it for me, and what can I get from it, and it's just normal. What are some of the mistakes that you see that you saw people making, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they still make them right now? Maybe some of, like, I don't know, the top 3, 4 mistakes that maybe some people watching this are probably still making and that they can take heed from. And just so you know, guys, this is a free coaching session. JD normally has people paying for this, so you guys better be taking notes.
No, I think that's a big challenge in kind of a couple different ways. And in one, that I see people making the mistakes that I made 8 years ago. And as much as I communicate that, I see people making the same mistakes that people made 6 months ago and a year ago and 2 years ago. And I think that we have to be able to leverage what I call OPM and OPW, which is, to me, one of the most valuable things that I offer. I have strategies, I have tactics, I have all the things, I have opportunities, I have a mentorship, but really what I bring to the table, I think, and the most value I can provide is my mistakes and my wisdom. OPM, OPW, other people's mistakes, other people's wisdom. That is the truest shortcut. So if I tell you the stove is hot, you can touch it. But if I burn my finger, why do you have to? And then why do the 20 other people in line have to? And what I've seen is there's not enough leadership in this space communicating those things, because a lot of service providers, they need you to struggle. Because when the struggle is high enough, then they can really leverage and they can point you in the direction of, like, oh, my training will take that away, instead of just giving that information. And so I think it starts at the very beginning, which is, if someone tells me I'm struggling to land a job, I can predict with almost complete certainty what they're doing. How can I do that? I'm not Nostradamus. I don't have a crystal ball. It's because we all did the same thing and it didn't work, right? And so what I call this is kind of negative modeling, in that there's a group of people doing the same things, and because they're not sharing information, for me, one of the first things I did was I started talking to other people who were struggling, and I realized, oh shit, we're all doing the same thing. So that tells me that there's a pattern. There's a way to struggle in this space. There's a model. We think of modeling as this positive thing, but there's a negative model as well. There's certain things that you do that will predict your struggle. And so I think when you ask people what they're doing, especially the ones who are struggling the most, either they're landing the jobs that they're not earning, or they're not landing jobs, you hear the same thing, right? I'm applying for jobs, I'm joining Facebook groups, and I'm doing cold outreach. And it's typically some sort of templated outreach, right? And so to me, when I talked to 5 or 6 people that were all struggling, I said, well, it's got to be in there somewhere, right? And people are just like, I don't know why I'm struggling. I'm just having a tough time. And then the excuses come up, and it's not fair, and all of these things. I got the wrong time zone. I have a kid and a dog, and that makes it harder. I have this, I have that, right? But at the end of the day, you're doing something that equals struggle, right? It's an equation. You cannot change the result without changing the equation. And so what I realized was, one, I'm looking at, I wasn't being respected, and I wasn't being appreciated. I wasn't being seen, right? And so I formed a theory that these applications aren't even being seen by a real person, and there's probably a lot of them, right? So I put applications ? I didn't know what the answer was, but I knew that that was part of the equation of struggle. Templated cold outreach ? That was part of the struggle. Joining Facebook groups and typing, I'm interested, that was part of the struggle. And so I knew that if I was going to change the result, I had to change the equation. There's no other way, right? And so I started looking at it and saying, well, okay, if I wasn't able to apply for jobs, if there was no applications, tomorrow applications got wiped off the earth, they got banned, would it be impossible to land a role? And I did this with all three, like cold outreach, templated cold outreach. What could I do differently? And what I realized was business owners don't respect applicants, and it's at the bottom of the totem pole. So I asked myself, how can I operate in a way which the business owner can respect? And what I realized was me getting a job is very similar to a business getting a client. I don't know any business owners that are applying to get clients. And so I thought, well, there must be a different way here. And so I started looking for inspiration outside of remote sales, and I found the world of freelancing. And I realized that we got the shitty end of the stick in that when you look at Facebook ad specialists, copywriters, email marketers, web designer, all of these people are able to land clients and do their service, do their job without the same process. They brand themselves, they develop organic marketing, they increase their visibility, and then they sit down with the business owner, they run a discovery, they tell them what they can do and what they can't do, they set the contract, they negotiate, and they land a client. And it's on their terms. But then for some reason, even though most of us left the traditional job market, we still took it into this approach. And we apply for jobs and we wait, and we interview and we wait, and then we take whatever terms they give us, and then we become an employee, we don't like it, then we complain, or the leads aren't good, or this, or we justify, and then we repeat the cycle. So I realized that, one, I want to up my level of respect, and I want to see business owners eye to eye. So I decided to start operating like them. I started realizing that I could build my own funnel, and the principle, I call it U Inc., but the principle that came up was, what if I operated like a one-person closer agency? What if I operated like a one-person recruiter agency, right? And what I realized is, instead of sitting in these pipelines and waiting and waiting and waiting for my name to be called, I want to start competing with these pipelines. I want to start competing with these recruiters. And what I realized was, there's some amazing recruiters, don't get me wrong, right? But there's a sea, their pipeline is theirs. I have lack of control. And what I realized was, man, these companies are getting paid $3, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 to introduce me to a business. I can introduce myself. They're setting the terms and they're involved, right? And anytime you become dependent on another person, well, your opportunity lowers, right? Like, they have to make money too. Where does that money come? Comes from us, right? And so I realized that I could bridge the gap. I could go direct to businesses, and I could sit down with them and learn about their goals and the desires. And what I found was, I didn't have to prove my capability to sell because I just sold them. They could imagine me on a call with their prospect because I just had a discovery call. I just handled their concerns and their objections. I just pitched my service. So at the end of the day, it was a much more natural conversation. And I started landing opportunities without interviews and without pipelines and without applications. And that in itself was a win. But then the types of positions that I was landing, I went from $1,100 a month to $40,000 a month. And I didn't get that much better at sales. I 30x my income just by changing my approach. And I held that 35 to 45K for 4.5 years by developing my own pipeline, by acting as the business owner, because it's very hard for a business owner to say, I don't respect how you're doing this. And it's like, I'm doing it the way you're doing it, right? Like, again, I've never heard a business owner say, oh yeah, I went away for the weekend with a bunch of job applicants. We went to Vegas. We had a great time. Right? Business owners don't spend a lot of time respecting and appreciating applicants. But I have heard business owners say, I went to Vegas with a bunch of other business owners. And so it wasn't about like making business cards or LLC, but operating as a one-man business. That was the major game changer for me.
And what kind of steps did you take to improve on U Inc., as you call it? Like, what did you exactly do?
Yeah, so it was really looking at the organic model, because I'm not going to take out ads, right? So again, I looked at the freelance model and I looked at the business model, and I found this thing called organic marketing, right? Organic funnels. And so I thought, well, it's kind of like a funnel in that I was doing a lot of applications, right? And I'd get some callbacks, and I'd get some interviews and some second interviews and some offers, and I'd accept an offer. There's a funnel there, right? And so I thought, well, there must be different ways. And so I started looking at how do businesses gain clients. And so I kind of went through, and just at the very basics, I realized like business plan, right? A lot of businesses have a business plan and a vision statement and a mission statement and core values. I didn't know which one would be valuable, but I thought, why not go through the exercise? And I started going through and making a vision statement and going through my core values and going through this process. And then something came up to me that was a client avatar. And I'd never thought about this before, but it was probably one of the biggest differences in that I started asking myself questions about my client avatar, my employer avatar. And I realized that I know nothing about these people. So how am I supposed to speak to them and about their values if I know nothing about them? I don't know their problems. I don't know their pains. I don't know their goals. I don't know their objectives, their vision. And that was an eye opener for me of like, okay, I need to look at this differently. And all these kind of business references were saying how important it is to get your avatar down. And so I started, instead of just looking for a job, I started getting involved in the coaching communities and paying attention to what they were talking about and having conversations without leading to, hey, I'm a high ticket closer. This is what I do. I started gathering more information. And then I started adding modeling, in that I didn't know exactly what was going to move the needle, but I wanted to resemble the business owner. And so I started taking business owners that I thought were very successful, and I started just doing what they were doing, right? They'd post content Monday morning. I posted content Monday morning, right? Like they were building their brand. They were paying attention to their imagery, their profile picture, their bio. I optimized my bio, right? And then I looked, and it was like all the things that they were doing, how could I translate that into what I was doing? And what I realized was the businesses that I'm most attracted to, one, they were highly visible. And so I just built that into my foundation. I need to be highly visible. A business owner can't hire me if they don't know I exist. And two, there was engagement and there was value. They were providing value. That's what earned my trust. And I'm like, wow, I would love to have business owners trust. And so that was the first game, was just, okay, visibility and value. I'm going to increase my visibility. I'm going to increase my value. Then I took it a step further and just said, okay, I was sending these templated messages. How do I feel about templated messages? I don't like them. I don't respond to them. I don't value them. Right. And then I really started thinking about, I was like, what am I selling here if not communication? And so if I can't take the time to craft a personal message, of course, that person's going to have all kinds of question marks about my ability to communicate in their business. Right? Like, this is my craft. Part of that is communication. And so I just moved along of like, what are the messages that I respond to? And I started going through other people's organic funnel and seeing how they responded and how they used my questions and my profile and personalized it. And so that was kind of the cornerstone, was increase visibility, increase value, and personalize the communication. That changed the game for me personally.
Wow. And it's honestly, even I'm learning so many things over here right now. And it's one thing that you said was, start thinking like a business owner. And it's so true. And we hear these messages maybe in different words and sentences from time and time again, as in, knowing your value and knowing that you're an asset to these organizations. But if it's like this, being on a sales call or a setting call, and it was something I was having a conversation with some of the setters that I'm managing as well. As in when you're trying to set someone, as in like they fill out a form and you call them, and you're speaking to them and you're reminding them about their form, etc. And like you're telling them that, oh, you wanted to start, and and you're really pushing for them to book the call in, and you're coming across so needy. No one likes that. And it just devalues not only the opportunity, you as well. And a lot of people do this online. Like honestly, so many people don't even know that that the amount of like interested here and interested there and interested like that they write on all these job opportunities. Don't get me wrong. On social media, you get a lot of noise and whatever, and there are some good opportunities and there's some whatever noise. But if you're just writing interested, I'm interested, or closer, or whatever, or what are the one words that the job post wants you to write down? What most people don't realize is your brand as soon as someone sees your name, if they click, like let's just say I saw your name in one of in a Facebook group, the first thing that I will get to see the moment I click your profile is all your activity on that profile, like what you were commenting. Now imagine you were looking for a role and all of a sudden, now I'm a hiring manager, but all I'm seeing you do is you're like, I'm interested, closer, interested, closer, 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 closer. To me, I'm thinking, whoa, this guy must be desperate. Oh my God, this guy's been writing interested for the last year. So he's been looking for a year. Okay, disregard him. Most people don't even know that this is how their personal brand comes across. So and it's so mindful of like some actionable steps that people could take. As in just clear up your profile as well. More, I always now I'm gonna put my hand up. I put up some random stuff sometimes, but guess what I do the following day or the second day? I go on my profile and I remove it. So because human, I have like feelings and whatever, and I express them, and then I remove it because I look after my personal brand. When people click on my profile, they should somewhat know what I'm doing. Now, a lot of the times, like whether I'm promoting the Gambia orphanage, or whether it was Ramadan, or whether it was, I was talking about maybe Closers University, or an opportunity that I was promoting. The moment that's finished, you want to clear your timeline, because what do most people do? They will click on your profile after they've seen your activity on a Facebook group. Let's just say they spotted you there. They'll click on your profile. Now, what are they getting to see? And that's your brand. And it's so true with what you were saying about you Inc. And I think I don't even know. I probably even learned this from you as well, as in like just clearing up. Because I remember it was you, me, Hunter. We used to make these posts about people just typing interested, and it was a joke that I used to have for a long time. And it's crazy when I see people still doing it now. And even when, and I know I'm probably going off on a tangent now or whatever, but if someone even asks you to type in, okay, let's just say it's a job advert and they want you to comment something at the bottom, go above and beyond what they want you to do. One time I just landed a role by accident just to show people that, hey, even though that because look, everybody's going to be commenting on their closer, whatever they want you to, but and I think you said it as well, as in like, how are you going to stand out with the competition? So if they're telling you to just type in closer, okay, type in closer, be coachable, do what they want you to do, but then drop 2 lines about who you are. Yeah, I'm a high ticket closer with 7 years of experience, having generated millions of dollars just in the last 2 years, as opposed to just writing, oh, yeah, I'm a closer. I see this so many times. And hopefully, people after seeing this, even when people tell you, okay, just show your interest over here, give some extra. Like I always say, be different and give extra. If they want one, give them 2.
100%. Yeah, I think it's understanding that you have to move beyond the transaction, and you have to think like there's 200, 300 people going for this role. It's fine and dandy if you're the most experienced, if you're the most talented, if you're in the right time zone, if you have the right first language, if everything lines up, sure, do the minimum amount of effort, and you might be like, there's someone listening to this that might be number one out of those 200 applicants. I was never that person. And so I knew, okay, there's someone here that's number one. Someone's going to apply to this job with more experience, better resume, better looks, better name, whatever it is, right? They're from the US, I'm from Canada. right? They're in the right time zone. They're in Pacific. I'm in whatever it was, right? Like I was in Korea. It couldn't be a worse time zone, right? And so I'm realizing that I have to bridge the gap, right? And so when I see, I'm not a big fan of job applications or job posts, but it's an allocation of resources. So I know the answer is not 0% of my time. I know that every once in a while, every couple of days, I'll go through and I'll look at some job posts. I also know it's not 100% of my time. And what I see with a lot of people struggling, they're spending 100% of their time searching for a job in the traditional route. It's some allocation of resources. We know that 70% of the jobs are not ever listed, right? So it wouldn't make sense right off the bat to only go 100% into job posts, right? So figuring out what that allocation, for me, it was around 5 to 10% of my time looking through applications, job posts, recruiter pipelines. But then that's the starting point, right? The rest of the time is how can I build, right? And Facebook and all of these platforms tell us what people value, right? They've spent billions of dollars to research what gives off that little endorphin. And that when you see someone heart your post, you might play it cool, but it means something. You like it, right? And so there's a variance of options there. Why is there a comment section? Because we've realized that when people comment, that's value. And then there's one that gets ignored so often, which I think is one of the easiest value add, which is share. I don't know about you, but when someone shares your post, it stands out differently than when someone likes your post, right?
80%.
Of course. So what I started doing was like, I'm going to share this job. Instead of just, I'm interested, I'm going to share it on my profile. Now, what does that do? That tags, there's everybody else, and it will say 93 people commented on your post. What goes above that? JD shared the post. So that tells that there's a little simplicity to it, and that I'm just leveraging everything that Facebook or another platform has used. But it's also saying that I'm not afraid to compete here. I want more people to see this because I want you to get the best person for the role. What I was getting is business owners reaching out to me and saying, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. Now, all of a sudden, it's an inbound lead, right?
Value.
Taking that a
It's
step
you
further.
giving value to that business owner
Right.
without even them asking, without even you asking for anything in return.
Right. Right. And again, it's taking that, you can take that so many steps further, but you have to be creative, you have to be innovative. You can't just sit in line, especially people use these excuses, again, the big ones, and it's tough. I made a post about this earlier, but if English is your second language, it's going to be more difficult for you. Anybody who tells you everyone is just trying to take your money, right? If you're not in US, there's unique set of challenges. There's no doubt about it, right? If you have 7 kids, that's going to be harder than someone who's single, right? All of these things. But you have to ask yourself, to me, there's 2 questions you have to ask. Is one, is it possible? If it's not possible for you to be successful, why are you here, right? Is it possible, and is it worth it? Will success be worth it? If it is, then what you're doing is accepting these difficulties, that you may have to work harder, that you will have to be more creative, that you'll have to do things that someone from the right time zone and the right experience won't have to do. Boo-hoo. It is what it is. Do you want it or not? And if it's not worth it, quit, right? Like, it's okay to quit, because if the problems stack up and the juice is not worth the squeeze, I see a lot of people hanging on, and it's like, no, quit or overcome. But taking that job and saying, okay, what else can I do? Well, do I know who works at that role, right? Do I know other salespeople in that role? Have I engaged with the business on other posts, or am I only engaging when they're asking for something? Am I only engaging in job posts? How many times have I supported their other posts? How many YouTube videos have I watched from that company, right? What have I learned about that company? Have I watched any articles? Have I shared their podcast? Have I done anything else to stack the chips in my favor? If not, I am putting my name in a hat, and I'm basically hoping it gets drawn out. But this level that people are basically just doing enough to get lucky, and they don't get lucky. It's too competitive. And going back to the economy, supply and demand is fucked, in that there's a supply of people looking for 10K opportunities, and the demand is not there. There's less 10K opportunities than there are people looking for opportunities. And so basic economics says that shifts the value, and that applicants are devalued. They're a dime a dozen. I can throw a rock and hit an applicant in the head who's looking for a job, right? But 10K is more scarce, which means it's more valuable. So what I have to do is figure out, and the example I use often is diamonds. everybody thinks diamonds are so rare, right? They're not. It's actually controlled. But a lot of the perceived value of diamonds, because again, most other things like gold and silver and all those things, it's the value is based on the rarity and the impact, the commodity. How do they use it? What is it worth? Right? What can it do? Diamonds is something different in that, yes, people controlled the distribution of it, but the big difference was the marketing, the perceived value, the demand of the marketplace. They changed it with the engagement ring. They changed it by changing the status. And so I thought, okay, I can't change how many people are applying for jobs, but what I can do is become a diamond. I can change my perceived value and my status. I can make sure people are more familiar. They're not JD who. It's like, oh yeah, JD, that's the guy who blank, right? If there's a question mark, if I went to your dream business, for anybody listening to this right now, if I went to your top 20 dream business owners, right? Make a list. If you don't have a list, make a fucking list. But if I go to the top 20 and I say, hey, what do you think about this person? If they say who question mark, that's your personal brand. You're a question mark, right? And that's the thing that people don't realize is most people don't know you exist. I've never been able to hire a fucking ghost. I can't hire someone I don't know exists. So the likelihood of one, are you visible? Do they know? Right? Like I didn't know you until we had a conversation, but I seen you around. I knew enough to be very open. You could have sent me a shitty message. You sent me a great message. We had a great conversation, right? But you could have sent me a shitty, hey, and I would have responded because I've seen you around, because I know, because I've heard things. And that allows people to move forward. I think a lot of people send the outreach and they're like, it's the perfect outreach. Why is no one replying? Because no one knows who the fuck you are. And so you have to bring it back. And that, again, thinking about the business, if I'm not getting enough sales or I'm not getting enough people on the phone, I don't try and get better at sales. I got to focus on marketing. And I think there's a lot of reps here that are so focused on sales, always investing in sales training, but their marketing sucks and they never get on the phone with the right person.
So true. Oh my God. I hope everybody's taking notes over here because there's so much valuable things that you said there as well. One of the things that stood out to me was, the like, the comment, and then you said something about the share. And I was like, oh my God, that's a great point because it got me thinking because so many people, bless them, they've been liking and commenting, about this live and they've been really been looking forward to it and everything. And there's one person, just one, and I can, when you said it, and I was like, okay, who's that one person? And I was like, one person actually did share it to their story, and they tagged me and you into it. I was like, that's that. His name's Bilal Irfan. And see, look, and I don't know him personally, but I've seen his share option that he shared the post to our story, well, his story, and it came up to, in my messenger. And it just goes, like, look at what he's done. He's got my attention.
Right.
And now it's in my mind. Oh, it's nice of him. Oh, but he likes comments, and a lot of people like and comment, for their own reasons and for the community, etc. and whatever. But they got my attention. It's like a bunch of the guys that I was train like I did like a free live masterclass for appointment setters, and I said whoever turns up on time, I'm gonna coach them for free for a few days. Right. And there was about I think 10 people that turned up on time. And then literally 5 or 10 minutes later, there was like 60 people waiting in the waiting room. I was like, oh, well, I'm not letting anybody in. You went on time. But those people that were on time, they turned up every single day for the live class. Guess what I did? Because I knew they were dedicated. I coached them. They got my attention. They did what I wanted them to do. All of them have a role now. All of them, literally from the masterclass that I had, because they all got my attention and they showed me what they could do and they stood out from the crowd. But it's that extra mile. It's that extra that we fail to do. And then we realize, oh man, like, why isn't it happening? It's crazy. And I was having this conversation with Imran because there's a bunch of people that they're not in any coaching programs or anything, any training or anything. And I look at them and the Closers University now is, I think we've been running for about 10 months. And this was just free content that we just posted out on YouTube. And I looked at some of them and I looked back at some of the Zoom calls that we did. I was like, oh my God. And I looked at those very people now. I'm like, they're exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're exactly the same. And they are in no roles whatsoever. And they're
Right.
still complaining about the same problems.
Right.
And I'm like, do you not realize?
Yeah. And I think it has a lot to do with people's what I call autoresponders, right? So we all have autoresponders. We all have natural tendencies. And to me, the difference between an animal and a human, right? We're animals, but why we're evolved, right, is one, our thumbs, right? So use those if you got them. But two, the biggest difference is our ability to choose. We get to choose our response. Animals have instincts and it's automatic. It's already determined what they will do. You step, they bite, they bark, they do all these things. It's how they respond. It's built in. We have the ability to choose, but a lot of people have de-evolved. They haven't used their evolution to the best of their ability. And so people's autoresponders are things like discouragement. Oh, I reached out to Jabran and he didn't respond back. Boo hoo. Right. And that's a natural tendency, but that is not the ideal response. And what I've been trying to get a lot of students in UCM to realize is that we often respond to a negative with a negative. And what that does is, like, imagine I pushed you one step backwards and then you're like, oh, he pushed me. I'm going to take 10 steps backwards. It sounds illogical, but that's what most people do. I didn't get the response I want, so now I'm not going to put the effort in, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to watch Netflix, right? And so what I've realized is, again, this wasn't something that came natural to me, but I think one thing that helped me propel myself further than a lot of people I started with was intensity, my response to things. And so what I realized is if I always respond to a negative with a positive, right? In that, okay, he didn't respond. I'm going to send 10 messages out to 10 other people, or I'm going to engage with him, not in the inbox, but more publicly to see if I can get a response there. I'm going to try and add more value. I'm going to see who he hangs around with and see if I can get in that way. If I can always respond to a negative or a perceived negative with a perceived positive, and I can up the intensity. Oh, it didn't work up. I need to up the intensity. And what I found is the second, third, fourth response is the one that got me the result. But I see so many people that they have one foot in, one foot out, and they're looking for reasons why it won't happen. They find them. I found them. You found them. We've all found a million reasons why it won't work out. We've all been hit in the face many times. It's not whether you fall. It's not whether you make mistakes. It's not whether you struggle. It's how your response to that, to me, is the biggest difference. I've had students that have every excuse in the book, but they respond positively to every outcome. They look and say, instead of the problem up here, how can I get up here? Right? They're always tackling, they're always chipping away at, they're always kind of, willing to take a chop at the log until it falls, knowing that maybe it's a 100 swings, maybe it's 10, maybe there's someone stronger that doesn't have to swing as much, and that's unfair, but they keep swinging. And I've yet to see someone who fills their day with positive actions, no matter the result, over time not win. It's just no matter who they are, right? There's different plateaus, there's different potential, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody has the same potential in this industry, right? But what I see is people complaining that the race is unfair sitting at the starting line. I'll open up to your audience. If anybody here reaches their peak potential, does everything that they can, and then they want to discuss that it's not fair, my inbox is open. I'll book a Zoom one-on-one meeting, whatever you want. If you max out your potential and you say, oh, well, it's still not JD, or I haven't got the Jabrans level, I'm all day open for you. But if you're someone who sits at the starting line and says the race is unfair, I have no time for you. Maximize your potential, and then we'll talk about the gaps. But sitting at the starting line being like, it's not fair and people don't want this and I'm not able to do that, no one has time for you. And you might as well just remove yourself. It's not the industry for you, because it's about performance and it's about problem solving and it's about value. And if you can't do those things, it's better to find something that has lower opportunity but more comfort, more certainty. It's that simple.
It is. it really just boils down to even, people not working on their skill set. I mean, I the amount I've invested, time, effort, energy, money, and thousands of pounds every single weekend for 8 years straight. I used to invest in myself in coaching and mentoring and some people just think, oh, you know what? I'll just try winging this and whatever. And most people don't realize, the investment that you make in yourself is the best investment that you can make, because everywhere you go, there you are. You will get paid in direct proportion of your personal development. Of you, look, the reason why most people don't have the income that they want is because their skill set is low. They increase their skill set, and maybe you'll match your income and the income goals that you have. And look, honestly, I've openly said it numerous times as well. And there's so many people that helped me on my journey. So I was very lucky and blessed and fortunate to, when I started in this high ticket remote space, there was multiple people in multiple spaces. And you know what, one of the communities I really thrived in, and it was conversations with Hunter. It was conversations within the community, in UCM that helped me, propel and move to the next level as well. And I know you guys have got, a coaching program right now that's actually live. I just wanted you, for a couple of minutes, if you can just shed some light on, how are you helping people within that program right now, and what do they get when they come in?
Right. Yeah. So at this point, we've continually evolved UCM. So at this point, we're at UCM 4.0. One of the problems that I have with a lot of training is people are teaching the same thing that they taught 5 years ago, and they're still charging as much, if not more. I've seen the price increase more than I've seen the training improve, right? And so how are we increasing the price when this is something that you taught 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago? And I see this with some of the most popular training out there. It's the same old stuff. And this industry is evolving very quickly. And so when I started UCM, it was the idea of what do I wish I had when I started out, right? And what I realized very quickly is a course or another program wasn't going to cut it. That's not what I wish I had. I wish I had someone in my corner every step of the way. I wish I had someone who would produce the results I want. I wish I had that community feel of support and someone who was giving me personal advice, not the one size fits all, but personalized advice to my strengths, my weaknesses, my goals, my situation. And so I chose a blend of the two things that have been most impactful in my life, which is one, mentorship. I was very lucky early on to have some amazing mentors, and I've had amazing mentors, whether personal, professional, paid or unpaid, throughout my whole career. And I think that made such a difference. And it's kind of a lost art. It used to be so important. Everybody had mentors growing up. And so that mentorship meant a lot, that I want to be involved in each person's journey at a personal level. I want them to be able to reach out to me, not a DM set or not a CSM, but me personally. And then the mastermind was something that I really challenged myself with sales, in that I think a lot of people play sales as a individual sport. And I see a lot of these people, kill or be killed, it's me against the world mentality. We see that in some of the leaders today. And I think it's stupid and useless, and it lacks a lot of the principles that I know. And so the mastermind idea was, one, how can I take the mentorship and be involved with someone every step of the way? And the mastermind was, how can we turn sales into a team sport where we're collaborating? It's not that big of a space. So you can go out and network with 5 people, 10 people a day. I can do the same. But if we get 100 people all doing that, that's 1,000 people each day. And if we're tapping into that, it's not that big of a space. If we're sharing and a UCM student gets 3 opportunities and takes one, instead of just rejecting the other 2, pass them on. And so those were the 2 principles that I started with. And I resisted the urge to teach what everybody else was teaching, which at that time it was like some sort of guaranteed placement and then some sort of generic sales training. And so I removed both of those and said, how can I teach this Inc? How can I teach top-down networking? How can I teach someone to build their reputation and personal branding and, communication from the outreach through the interview process, onboarding? How can I teach offer selection to make sure that you're vetting the right offers? And so we basically took it in A to Z. For most people, it's being able to find, land, and vet high income opportunities, not just jobs, but high income opportunities, and then how to perform at the highest level within that opportunity. It's expanded a lot since then in that we have personal development aspects, we have the personal branding, we have life after closing. A lot of our students now are developing their own businesses and investing and all of these things. But to me, it's about being able to facilitate the pursuit. And whatever that is, instead of me just having modules or courses and say, good luck, it's about what do you want and how can we increase the probability of that, increase the speed, and raise the ceiling. And so for each student, it looks different. Some of them come in, and a lot of people come in with sales experience, but no understanding of the remote space. Other people are transitioning from 9 to 5. And certain things, as I experience, I realize that no one's covering the transition. Everybody's saying, oh, jump all in, but some people can't do that. So developing transition strategies. So everything that I've developed from UCM 1 to UCM 4.0 has been being in the trenches with the people and understanding what their problems are and understanding what the potential roadblocks are between them and success and how can we facilitate that. Now we've developed an amazing team and an amazing community, and we have, a large amount of alumni members who also provide and contribute, special guests, all those things. But it's a mentorship and a mastermind program to reach the highest level of success from all the way from the beginning of transitioning into this industry. And so beyond that, what it might look like for each individual is up to me and them to have that conversation. And the first thing I'll say is I don't try and convince anybody. Quite the opposite. I typically start calls telling them all the things that I don't do well. And there's a lot, right? But I'm not going to convince anybody. It's either 100% alignment that our two heads are better than one, or it's not. And so I think if you're on the fence, if you're open to it, one, jump into the community and get involved. There's a lot of people that have shared their experience third party, which means a lot more than coming from me. But two, let's just have a conversation. I'm not going to try and convince you. I don't hard sell or anything like that. If it's alignment, if it makes sense, we'll do it. If not, it's one more person in your network. I think I'm a good person to have in your network and be known. Make the connection.
How would they be able to get more information on this? Would it just drop you a DM on Facebook, or is it the community? How would they be able to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I would say our remote sales community. I can send you all the links to put in, and I'll follow this conversation and go through the comments. So if anybody wants to talk to me through the comments, let me know. But I would say the Facebook group, reaching out to me personally, make sure I can see you as well, because sometimes it ends up in the spam. So that's a little side note tip. Add the friend first when sending the message, because if not, it goes in spam or not unseen. But yeah, just reach out, get involved in the community, take some of the tips. Again, if you want my attention, take some of the tips that we talked about today and showcase them, right? Make sure that you're seen and that you're visible and that you're adding value, but get involved in the community at some level. And the last thing I'll say is, I know that you and I are both strong on investing in yourself. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't have the money and I need the thing to invest in yourself. Investment is a resource. Money is one of those resources, and there's no doubt that it gets help easier. But time is also a resource. So if you're listening to this and you're at a point where I don't have money to invest, time is your most valuable resource. I have thousands of posts. I've laid it all out. Again, UCM is collective and it's curated and it's in order and it's personalized. And yes, it's a much faster route. Our average student lands high income employment in 3 weeks or less, right? But that doesn't mean that you're stuck where you are. If you can't invest money, invest your time. Search my name in the group and you will find thousands of posts, Hunter's name in the group, thousands of posts laid out. You'll have to curate it. You'll have to organize it. My YouTube channel, same thing.
Everything's
it's
there.
all there, but do not stay where you are. If you're using I don't have money as the excuse for not progressing, it's a long, long road. You have to be able to do the heavy lifting to get to a point where you can invest in yourself. But yeah, I don't bite. Reach out to me, comment, get involved in the community. It's welcome to all. But Yeah,
his
I'm here.
attention, get his attention. But honestly, JD, it's been a real pleasure, having you on the call. And thank you very much from myself and the closest university as well. And likewise, wishing you all the best, for the future as well. And hopefully one day we'll get off the screens and meet up in person as well.
I would love that, man. And I just want to say a thank you to you for all that you do for the community, and so many of my students have said such amazing things, which allowed us to connect, and I know we share a lot of the same pupils and stuff, but really what you've been able to build and just your attention to giving first and everything you've been able to provide, I just appreciate and respect you so much. So thanks for giving me a platform, and thanks for all you do in the community.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Awesome. Have a great evening, great day, great week, and see you soon. Take care. God bless.